What if you wrote the most difficult letter of your life, only to have the system itself refuse to accept it? What if the walls of family, faith, and legal precedent closed in so tightly that even your cry for freedom seemed to get lost in the paperwork? This isn't just a rumor. This isn't just tabloid speculation. We are diving deep into a story that has gripped a nation, a story that raises alarming questions about agency, accountability, and what happens when a family's private turmoil becomes a public litmus test for justice. I'm talking about the swirling, unconfirmed, yet persistently reported storm around Anna Duggar. The whispers are deafening, that a potential divorce petition, a letter seeking legal separation from Josh Duggar, was somehow stalled, rejected, or sent back. And the most heartbreaking detail of all? That amidst this chaos, the children may remain in a limbo that defies easy public understanding. This is a narrative of immense pressure, labyrinthine legalities, and a woman at the eye of a hurricane not of her making. Buckle in. This is not a simple story. And this is only the beginning. Let's rewind. To understand the present, we must confront the past. The Duggar family, for years, was America's reality TV royalty. 19 kids and counting, presented a unified front of faith, family, and conservative values. Anna Keller entered this world, marrying Josh Duggar in 2008. She became Anna Duggar, a central figure in this sprawling clan. For a long time, the narrative was one of a fairy tale. But fairy tales, as we know, are often fragile. The first major crack appeared in 2015. The world learned of the Josh Duggar molestation scandals from his teenage years. The family's image was shattered. Anna stood by her husband. She spoke of forgiveness, of working through crisis within the covenant of marriage. The public was divided, some saw strength in her commitment, others saw a troubling pattern of enablement. The show was cancelled. The family retreated, but the spotlight never fully went away. Then, the hammer blow. In 2021, Josh Duggar was arrested on federal charges of receiving and possessing child sexual abuse material. The trial was a national spectacle, laying bare a darkness far beyond the earlier scandals. The evidence was graphic, overwhelming, and damning. In December 2021, the verdict came, guilty on all counts. Later, he was sentenced to over 12 years in federal prison. Joshua Duggar was no longer just a controversial reality star, he was a convicted felon, incarcerated for crimes of a profoundly disturbing nature. And here sits Anna, the mother of his 7 children. The woman who, at least publicly, had weathered every storm at his side. With his conviction, the world waited. Would this be the breaking point? Would the scales finally fall from her eyes? The question on everyone's lips was simple: will Anna Duggar finally file for divorce? Months turned into years of silence. Or, more accurately, of no public legal action. Speculation ran rampant. Then, the leaks began. From unnamed sources, from purported insiders, from legal circles in Arkansas, a tantalizing and troubling rumor began to take shape, that Anna had, in fact, attempted to initiate divorce proceedings. That a document, a letter of intent, a petition draft, something, had been prepared. But the story goes that it was not filed. Or it was filed and faced immediate, unexpected hurdles. This is where our investigation begins. The concept of a rejected divorce letter. What could that possibly mean? In a standard legal sense, a court clerk doesn't reject a filing because they disagree with it. They can reject it for procedural failures, incorrect filing fees, improper forms, missing signatures, jurisdictional issues. But sources hint at something more nuanced. Pressure. Immense, suffocating pressure. Consider the ecosystem. Anna Duggar has lived her entire adult life within a powerful, closed system. First, it was her own family's conservative beliefs. Then, it was the colossal Duggar empire, with its strict adherence to the Institute in Basic Life Principles, IBLP, teachings. Within this framework, divorce is often treated not as a legal option, but as a spiritual failing of catastrophic proportions. The doctrine emphasizes lifelong covenant marriage, where even abuse, adultery, and criminality are framed as trials to be endured with God's help. To seek a divorce is to risk not just family disapproval, but the perception of defying divine ordinance. Now, with Josh imprisoned, that system has not disappeared. If anything, it may have closed ranks. Jim Bob Duggar, the patriarch, is known as a formidable figure, a man accustomed to controlling the family narrative and, allegedly, its finances. The legal battles surrounding Josh were costly. The family's reputation is in tatters. A public divorce filing from Anna would be another seismic blow, a final, public admission that the covenant could not survive the reality of Josh's actions. It would be a narrative they cannot control. So, the pressure is multifaceted. It's not one person saying don't do it. It's the entire weight of a belief system, a family brand, and a lifetime of conditioning. Could financial considerations be presented as hurdles? Could access to legal counsel sympathetic to the family's views be the only kind readily available? Could the very language of submission and standing by your man be used as a tool to discourage legal action? This is the kind of rejection that doesn't come with a court stamp. It comes in quiet conversations, in prayers framed as warnings, in the overwhelming fear of being cast adrift from the only support network she has ever known. And then, there are the children. 7 of them. This is the most emotionally charged aspect of the entire rumor. Kids stay with Josh. The headline is designed to horrify. But legally, what could it mean? Josh Duggar is a federally incarcerated felon, convicted of crimes against children. He poses zero chance of gaining physical custody. That is not in question. However, the term custody has different layers. There is physical custody, where the children live, and legal custody, the right to make major decisions about their welfare, education, religion, and healthcare. In some conservative interpretations, and potentially within the family's belief structure, the father is considered the spiritual and legal head of the household, forever. Terminating his parental rights, even while he is in prison, may be seen as a step too far. It requires a separate, often contentious, legal process. The rumor may suggest that any proposed legal separation or divorce arrangement, influenced by this pressure, could theoretically leave Josh's parental rights technically intact on paper, even while he has no contact. This creates a haunting legal limbo for Anna. She is the sole caregiver, but she may not have the full, unencumbered legal authority to make decisions without his theoretical consent, a consent he cannot give from prison, or that she must formally petition the court to override in every significant matter. Think of the practical nightmares. Want to move to a new state to be closer to her own family for support? May need to formally terminate his rights or get court permission. Major medical decision for a child? The same. Enrolling them in a new school system? Potentially the same. This is the shackle of unsevered parental rights. It keeps Josh, legally and spectrally, in the picture. This could be a powerful bargaining chip used to discourage a clean break. The children must keep their father's name, legally. It's for their spiritual protection. The arguments could be framed in the language of faith, but the effect is one of profound control and restriction on Anna's autonomy. We've spoken to several family law attorneys familiar with Arkansas law and high-profile, complex cases like this. They all stress one thing off the record: this situation is a legal minefield wrapped in a media storm, inside a pressure cooker of religious dogma. One attorney put it bluntly: if a client in Anna's position came to me, my first job would be to help her understand that she is an individual with rights, not just a wife within a dynasty. The psychological disentanglement is often the biggest hurdle before we even file the first document. Another pointed to the financial dependency. Who controls the money? In these insulated family structures, the purse strings are often the most effective leash. If Anna has no independent assets, no credit in her own name, no way to pay for a fierce, independent legal team, she is at a severe disadvantage. She may be relying on family funds for her and her children's survival. Those funds may come with conditions. This brings us to the rejected letter theory. One plausible scenario, pieced together from these professional insights, is this: a petition may have been drafted. It may have been presented to Anna. Upon review by family advisors or counsel associated with the family, a myriad of issues could have been raised. This clause will trigger a custody evaluation that could last years. This demand will cause the family to cut off financial support. This language will be seen as an attack on our faith. The document, rather than being filed, is sent back for revisions, revisions that never end, revisions that dilute its purpose into oblivion. In effect, it is rejected not by the court, but by the very system it seeks to escape. There is also the court of public opinion, which Anna has been trained to manage since she was 20 years old. Filing for divorce would unleash a media frenzy of a different kind. Headlines would celebrate her liberation. She would be held up as a hero by many, but branded a traitor and a failure by a significant portion of her community and family. For someone who has lived a life defined by loyalty to that community, this prospect is terrifying. The psychological barrier is a fortress. So, where does this leave us? With a woman in an almost unimaginable predicament. Legally, she has the right to divorce. Practically, the path is strewn with obstacles that are emotional, financial, theological, and familial. The rumor of the rejected letter is a powerful metaphor for her entire situation, the attempt to declare independence, met with a force that seems to nullify it. And the children? They are living this reality. Their world is one of visiting days at federal prisons, of explaining their absent father, of existing in the shadow of a scandal that will follow them online for the rest of their lives. Their stability is entirely dependent on their mother's ability to navigate this labyrinth. If she is hamstrung by incomplete legal authority, their future is uncertain. Their ability to heal, to move, to grow beyond this tragedy is directly tied to the resolution of Anna's legal and personal status. This is not a story with easy answers. This is not a story about a villain and a victim in simple terms. It is a tragic case study in the collision of extreme beliefs, celebrity culture, the American legal system, and one woman's search for a path forward. It is about the terrifying power of soft power, the power of disapproval, of doctrine, of conditional love and financial dependence. The question for us, the audience watching from the outside, is not why doesn't she just leave? That question is naive. The real questions are much harder. What are the limits of religious freedom when it creates a prison for those within it? How does the legal system protect individuals in high-control family systems? Where is the line between standing by your principles and enabling evil? And what is the true cost to the innocent children caught in the crossfire? Anna Duggar's story, in many ways, is just beginning. The next chapters will be written in quiet legal filings, in family meetings behind closed doors, in the slow, painful process of one person trying to find her own voice after a lifetime of speaking in a chorus. This is where we must pause. But the story is far from over. The layers here are deep. The implications are vast. And in part 2 of this investigation, we will go even deeper. We will examine the specific financial structures that may be in play. We will look at the historical precedent of other women leaving high-control religious groups and the legal strategies that worked. We will analyze what true freedom for Anna and her children could realistically look like, and the uphill battle to get there. This is a story that demands attention. If you want to follow every twist and turn of this ongoing saga, you need to be part of this community. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell right now. Why? Because when part 2 drops, you will be the first to know. You will get the next piece of this complex puzzle delivered directly to you. We don't do surface-level gossip here. We do deep dive analysis, respectful investigation, and storytelling that connects the dots. Your engagement is what allows us to keep producing this kind of long-form, documentary-style content. So give this video a thumbs up if you want to see part 2. Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments below. What aspect of this situation do you find most compelling? The legal hurdles? The psychological pressure? The fate of the children? Let's have a meaningful discussion. And remember, for the full picture, you have to be here for the next chapter. The letter may have been stalled, but this story is moving. Don't miss a second of it. Subscribe now. Until next time, stay curious, stay compassionate, and remember, the biggest stories are often the ones happening just out of sight. We'll see you in part 2. What if the key to freedom wasn't in a courtroom, but in a bank ledger? What if the most powerful chains holding someone back are invisible, signed in secret, and shrouded in the language of faith and family? Last time, we unraveled the haunting rumor of the rejected letter, the story of immense pressure keeping Anna Duggar in a state of legal and personal limbo. But that was only the surface. Today, we go deeper into the engine room of this crisis. We're talking about money, control, and a systemic blueprint that has kept women in line for generations. This is the untold story of the financial prison, the playbook of persuasion, and the narrow, treacherous path out. This isn't just about one family anymore. This is a case study in survival. And it all starts with a single, devastating question: who holds the purse strings? In part 1, we ended with the concept of soft power, the pressure of doctrine and disapproval. But soft power has a hard, financial backbone. To understand Anna Duggar's position, we must follow the money. The Duggar family empire, while diminished from its 19 kids and counting peak, is not penniless. There are real estate holdings, business ventures, royalties, and the complex web of assets managed under the umbrella of Jim Bob Duggar's control. For decades, the family operated as a unit, with income often pooled or funneled through the patriarch. Anna entered this system as a young bride. Her work was within the family, helping with the show, raising children, upholding the brand. It's highly unlikely she developed a separate, significant career or built independent credit or assets in her own name. Her financial identity was subsumed into Josh and Anna, and then, by extension, into the larger Duggar financial ecosystem. Now, with Josh imprisoned, the source of any direct income from him is gone. So, who supports Anna and her 7 children? The logical, and by all accounts accurate, answer is the extended Duggar family, primarily Jim Bob. This support is not a trivial matter. We're talking about housing, likely in a family-owned property, utilities, groceries, clothing, transportation, and legal fees for the children's guardianship issues. It is a lifeline. But in high-control environments, a lifeline can also be a leash. This is where we encounter the concept of controlled generosity. Support is provided, but it is often conditional and structured in a way that prevents independence. Let's break down how this might work, based on patterns observed in similar high-control groups and family systems. 1. The no-cash policy. Support may come in the form of direct payments for bills, a shared family credit card for groceries, or a vehicle that is titled in the family trust's name, not Anna's. What she likely does not have is a substantial, regular cash allowance deposited into an account solely under her control. This limits her ability to save, to hire her own independent attorney without family knowledge, or to make any move that isn't pre-approved. 2. Asset ownership. The home she lives in is almost certainly not in her name. If it's a Duggar-owned property, she is essentially a tenant. A tenant with 7 children. The threat of upheaval, however subtly implied, is a powerful deterrent against rocking the boat. Where would she go? How would she pay for it? 3. Legal fee control. Any legal advice she receives regarding divorce, custody, or asset division may be vetted and paid for by the family trust. This creates a catastrophic conflict of interest. An attorney paid by Jim Bob Duggar ultimately has a fiduciary duty to their payer, not necessarily to Anna's best interests if those interests conflict with the family's wishes. This could explain the rejected or endlessly revised petition. Legal counsel may be steering her towards options that minimize family exposure and maintain the status quo, rather than aggressively advocating for her complete legal and financial separation. 4. The doctrine of provision. This is the theological twist. Her reliance on the family can be framed not as control, but as God's provision through the family head. To challenge the provider is to be ungrateful, to lack faith, to risk God's wrath. It reframes a financial dependency into a spiritual test. Now, let's introduce a devastating legal reality: Josh Duggar's financial obligations. As a convicted felon serving a long sentence, he has no current income. Any child support order would be essentially unenforceable. He may also face staggering restitution fees and fines from his federal case. This means Anna cannot look to him, legally, as a source of financial liberation. Her potential marital assets are likely tangled with his legal liabilities. Pursuing a divorce could mean formally attaching herself to his debts while gaining little from any marital property. The financial incentive, from a purely cold perspective, might appear to be to stay legally married, to keep his liabilities and her support somewhat separate. It's a horrifying catch-22. So, we have a woman with 7 children, no independent income, no assets in her name, living in a family-owned home, and reliant on the very system she might need to escape. The cost of leaving isn't just emotional, it's potentially catastrophic for her children's immediate stability. This is the concrete wall behind the velvet curtain of family pressure. But the pressure has a playbook. It's a psychological architecture built over years. To understand Anna's hesitation, we must map this architecture. We've consulted with experts in cultic studies and high control group dynamics, and the patterns are chillingly clear. It's not about brute force, it's about systemic persuasion. The persuasion playbook. Information control, limiting exposure to outside perspectives that normalize divorce or criticize the family's actions. The social circle is the approved circle. Media is monitored. The narrative is constantly managed, the world is against us. They don't understand our faith. Emotional control, framing all emotions through the lens of doctrine. Doubt is not a natural feeling, it's a spiritual attack. Anger is not a justified response to betrayal, it's a sin of bitterness. Fear of the outside world is cultivated, while fear of exile from the group is amplified. Loaded language, words are weapons. Covenant isn't just a marriage, it's an unbreakable, divine contract. Submission isn't just respect, it's a mandate. Headship is God-ordained authority. To defy these terms is to defy God himself. Sacred science, the group's beliefs, like IBLP teachings, are presented as absolute, revealed truth, not subjective interpretation. There is no room for debate. The legal system is part of the worldly sphere, which is corrupt and inferior to God's law. Dispensing of existence, this is a subtle, powerful tool. The implicit message is, your value, your identity, your very existence as a righteous woman is contingent on your role within this family structure. If you leave it, you are nothing. You are a failed wife, a disobedient daughter, a poor witness. Your past identity, Anna Keller, has been systematically erased and replaced, Anna Duggar, helpmeet to Josh, daughter-in-law to Jim, Bob and Michelle. This playbook doesn't need to be consciously enacted by mustache-twirling villains. It's the water they all swim in. It's the default setting. For Anna to even contemplate a divorce is to swim against a current that has defined her entire adult life. The rejected letter is a physical manifestation of this systemic rejection of a deviant thought. Given this fortress of financial and psychological control, is there any path forward? The answer is yes, but it is narrow, steep, and requires external scaffolding. Let's explore the realistic, though immensely difficult, roadmap to autonomy. This is based on the strategies used by advocates who help women leave similar situations. The secret bridge, building a parallel support system. This happens entirely in the shadows. It requires contacting someone on the outside who is utterly trustworthy and has no ties to the Duggar world. This could be a member of her own birth family, the Kellers, who has become disillusioned with the Duggars, or a former friend from before her marriage. The goal here is not legal action yet. The goal is to establish a secret communication channel, a burner phone, a secret email account accessed at a public library. An emotional sounding board, someone who can validate her reality without using the group's loaded language. A fact finder, this person can begin discreetly researching resources, shelters for women and children, specifically those experienced with high-control religious backgrounds, pro bono legal aid organizations, nonprofits that help families of incarcerated individuals. The legal infiltration, finding unconflicted counsel. This is the most critical and dangerous step. She must find a lawyer who will work for her, not the family. This would likely require bypassing any family-recommended attorneys. How? This is where an outside contact or a savvy social worker could connect her with an organization like the American Professional Society on the Abuse of Children, APSIC, or a domestic violence legal aid group. Financial control is a form of abuse. They can refer her to a fierce, independent family law attorney in Arkansas. The first consultation might be done pro bono or on a deferred payment plan. This attorney's first job would be to conduct a hidden asset search to understand what, if any, marital property exists independently of the Duggar trust. They would also explain protective orders, separation agreements, and the real process of terminating parental rights for an incarcerated felon convicted of crimes against children. Before any legal papers are filed, a safe landing must be prepared. This is where the financial reality bites hardest. Options are brutal but exist. Crowdfunding. A trusted outsider could set up a verified, discreet crowdfunding campaign. Given the public notoriety of the case, funds could be raised shockingly fast to secure independent housing, a vehicle, and living expenses for a year. This, however, blows her cover and invites massive public and private backlash. Nonprofit sanctuary organizations exist that help women and children from fundamentalist backgrounds. They provide transitional housing, counseling, and legal navigation. They understand the specific religious trauma involved. Governmental assistance, applying for SNAP, food stamps, Medicaid for the children, and housing assistance, Section 8. This would be portrayed by the family as a failure and an embrace of the worldly system, but it is a lifeline to independence. The legal onslaught, simultaneous actions. When the foundation is secure, the legal moves must be swift and simultaneous, filed on the same day to prevent the system from mobilizing to stop her. 1. Petition for divorce on grounds of incarceration and felony conviction. 2. Petition to terminate Josh Duggar's parental rights based on his conviction and incarceration for crimes against children. This is a separate, critical action to sever the legal limbo. In most states, this is a strong case. 3. Motion for exclusive use of the marital home, if it is legally marital property, or, more likely, a motion for temporary child support from the marital estate, forcing the disclosure of assets. 4. Request for a guardian ad litem for the children, a court-appointed advocate solely for their best interests, insulating them from the family pressure. This legal blitz would be designed to quickly establish new, unassailable facts on the ground, her legal freedom, her sole legal custody of the children, and a court-mandated financial framework. Throughout this, the central, beating heart of the story is the 7 children. M1, M2, M3, M4, M5, M6, and M7. Their futures are the ultimate stakes. Their current reality is one of profound cognitive dissonance. They are taught one version of truth at home and in their community, while the outside world screams a contradictory narrative. They visit a father in federal prison for unspeakable crimes. Their lives are public property, their images analyzed, their trauma a topic for podcasts. What is truly in their best interest? The legal standard is clear: stability, safety, emotional well-being, and the opportunity for healthy development. Experts would argue this necessitates a clean break from the trauma source. This means not just physical distance from Josh, but psychological distance from the system that enabled and minimized his behavior. Therapy from secular, trauma-informed professionals. They need help processing complex grief, betrayal, and public shame in a healthy way, free from theological spin. Educational and social normalization, the chance to go to a mainstream school, make friends outside the bubble, and discover who they are beyond the Duggar grandkids' identity. An empowered mother, the single greatest factor in their resilience will be Anna's own mental health and autonomy. A mother who is strong, independent, and healing is their best protector. The current limbo, the state of the unrejected rejection, is the antithesis of this. It keeps them suspended in the toxic ecosystem, their legal status fuzzy, their future dictated by the very dynamics that led to the crisis. So, where does this leave us? Anna Duggar stands at the convergence of multiple oppressive systems, a patriarchal religious subculture, a family brand in survival mode, the financial realities of single motherhood, and the glaring spotlight of true crime celebrity. The rumor of the rejected divorce letter is the perfect symbol for her predicament. It represents an attempt at self-determination being swallowed by a machine designed to maintain control at all costs. This story is no longer just a tabloid fascination. It is a stark examination of how ideology can be weaponized to trap the vulnerable. It asks us to look beyond the simplistic "why doesn't she leave" and see the intricate prison, a prison with comfortable furniture, stocked refrigerators, and prayers on the walls, but a prison nonetheless. Her path to freedom, if she chooses to take it, will be the hardest thing she has ever done. It will require a courage of a different kind than the strength she was praised for in Standing by Josh. It will be the courage to be called weak by her community. The courage to face financial uncertainty. The courage to redefine her identity and her children's futures from the ground up. The world watches, often with judgmental or voyeuristic eyes. But perhaps our role shouldn't be to judge Anna Duggar, but to understand the terrifying complexity of her cage. And to ensure that for any woman in a similar cage, the tools to break the locks, legal, financial, and psychological, are visible and within reach. The letter may have been stalled. The system may have pushed back. But the human spirit's desire for freedom is a relentless force. The next chapter of this story hasn't been written yet. Anna holds the pen. The question is, who will she allow to help her turn the page? This investigation is ongoing. The real-world implications of this case touch on everything from family law and religious freedom to media ethics and survivor advocacy. If you want to be part of a community that digs deeper than the headlines, you are in the right place. Here is your direct call to action. 1. Subscribe and hit the bell. The landscape of this story changes. New information, potential legal filings, or shifts in the family dynamic could happen at any time. When they do, and when we do our next deep dive analysis, you need to be the first to know. Click subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss a single update. 2. Like this video. If this two-part documentary provided you with context and understanding you haven't found elsewhere, give it a thumbs up. It tells the YouTube algorithm that this is thoughtful, important content that should be shared with more people who are seeking substance over gossip. 3. Comment respectfully below. We want to hear your thoughtful takeaways. Not wild speculation or hateful speech, but genuine discussion. Which aspect of this analysis did you find most revealing? The financial control? The psychological playbook? The roadmap out? Your thoughtful engagement fuels this channel and helps shape future content. 4. Share with purpose. If you know someone who only sees this story through the lens of reality TV drama, share this documentary with them. Let's elevate the conversation. We are committed to covering stories with this level of depth and respect for the human complexity involved. By supporting this channel, you're voting for more long-form, documentary-style investigations that connect the dots and challenge easy narratives. Remember, understanding is the first step toward change. Whether it's change in one woman's life or in how we, as a society, view these intricate traps. Stay curious. Stay compassionate. And stay tuned.